honestly, I wasn't sure I could talk about it. I will never forget, I saw on TV, it was a helicopter picture, and it was on the news, breaking news.
He led police to the backyard of this Park Hill home.
And I knew it was my brother's backyard. And I said, why are they in that backyard? What are they doing?
Officers are still at a scene.
And just, I couldn't move. And after a few minutes of just being there in shock,
The search for victims is our top story.
I walked around begging God to just wake me up, because I knew it was just a nightmare, that none of it was true. It was just not true. And I didn't get to wake up.
I wanted to get caught because I knew I wasn't going to be able to stop. I needed help. I said, please help me. Please help me. You know, help me to help him so nobody else gets hurt anymore.
This picture here is my brother and me and what is left of a snowman. As you can see, I was upset about it, and he was not. He thought it was hilarious that the snowman's head melted. When someone calls my brother evil or a monster or something like that, I get mad. I get really, really mad. Do I believe in evil? Absolutely. I don't think you can believe in the good without the bad, ever. Just because somebody does something horrible doesn't mean that you don't love them anymore. And I love my brother. That has never changed and will never change. It's still a fact, and it will always be a fact. I love him. I laugh at this picture, but then again, like so many other pictures, I get sad when looking at it, because his whole life was ahead of him, and I just wonder how different things could have been. My brother and I are 18 months apart. Our childhood before high school was in such turmoil, so we were each other's friends. We have other siblings, but my brother and I have always been really, really close.
So this girl, for some reason, doesn't like me. I've never even talked to her, and she's being like really mean and stuff.
We've been through so much together that sometimes I feel like he's my other half in a way, because we were pretty much always together.
Well, if you need any help with that person, just let me know.
All right.
When I was younger, I'd wake up and he'd be sitting in my room, just staring at me while I was sleeping. And that, you know, at the time I'm like, what are you doing? Go to bed. He said, I'm watching you sleep. I mean, I didn't know it wasn't normal at the time because I was a kid. But now looking back, I'm like, wow, that's not normal. So I just, you know, got up and went out of the room. Because I didn't quite know what to do with that. He did not leave that room. He stayed sitting in there. I had no idea what was going on in his head. It was just creepy. My brother was religious in his own way, but I think it was more the negative things in the Bible that he focused on.
6:12. And I looked, and it opened the seal, and behold, so was a great earthquake. To the sun became as black as sackcloth, and the moon.
An eye for an eye, for instance. I think he took that very literally. And I think that it was kind of an obsession. I mean, not kind of, I think it was an obsession for him. He had a record, it was AC/DC, and he loved it. Somebody told him it was Satan music, so he smashed it. Because he thought that the devil had come to him through the music.
And fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen.
And there were times that he really scared me. It's just always how he's been. So I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I'm so used to it. I had a parakeet, and her name was Ginger. And we're getting ready for school in the morning, and he said, "Hey, Dee, watch this." And he snapped the bird's neck and threw it on the ground for the cat to eat. I was crying. And I asked him, "Why did you do that?"
She never did anything to you.
He said, "So you'd screw up on your finals." He could be just quick to snap and be ruthless and not think twice about it. I've always known he wasn't like everybody else, but I didn't know that was a bad thing. That's just how he was. He was different, but when you grow up with different, you assume it's normal. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified.
Open this door!
Tell me what to do. How do I get out of this? I've never asked my brother why he did what he did. I can't understand what my brother did or why he did it, but I understand some of the events that made him turn out the way he is. I got a phone call from one of my siblings telling me that RP had contacted her.
Is everything okay?
And she said, "You need to sit down." And what? Just tell me. And she said, he called me and he's got HIV.
Oh my God.
I was in complete panic. I was terrified. I mean, I just thought, I'm losing my brother. He's going to die. And at that point, all I'd ever heard were these horrible stories about people with HIV and how painful and how drawn out their death is and just horrible things. And so I thought, I was just panicked. I didn't know what to do. I thought, I don't want him to suffer like that. So
How's the medication going?
What medication?
Aren't you being treated for HIV still?
That. I don't have HIV.
He just wanted everybody to freak out.
You don't have HIV?
No.
He just did it because I think he thought it was funny. That's just the way his mind worked, I guess. I don't know. He did things like that all of the time. All of the time. Telling me about a friend that had died. So I paid for him to go across Colorado to this guy's funeral. And then I guess it was about 2 years later that I ran into the guy. That's just how he was. He made up stories a lot about committing crimes, about robbing this store or that store. If those stores were truly robbed, it would have been on the news. Everything was just outlandish that he said. I mean, you couldn't ever know what was real and what wasn't. My brother, especially when drinking, would tell stories of killing people.
Ready for this?
It was usually after I got home from work and we'd play cards and he'd be, already well into his drunkenness. And that's when he started telling me things.
I've killed someone before. A woman.
In vivid details. Like, the weapon that he used, whether it be his hand or a belt or, things to strangle people.
Something thin that really cuts the air off quickly.
But I didn't believe him, so it didn't bother me.
RP, come on now.
I mean, he's always liked, real gory movies and things like that. And I think, yeah, you saw that on TV. That didn't happen.
So I pin her down and I wrap my belt around her. I tighten it up just enough so that she starts to turn blue. She can't breathe.
And I figured he just needed attention. So, okay, go ahead, tell me. Really? So I kind of laughed it off.
I'm serious. Just knock it off, okay?
I mean, I thought it was really sad that he was saying things like that, but I'd heard him say other people had died that hadn't died. I'd, heard that he was dying when he wasn't dying. So I just kind of figured it was a natural progression of his stories. And it wasn't just me that he told. He told several other people. He told my neighbors. He told his girlfriend. He told one of the girls that worked at the bar that I worked at, who he barely knew. I'm not sure how many people he told, but I know that none of those people called the police. Most people just knew he made stuff up. That's just what he did. Nobody believed him. He told his girlfriend something about having killed people and having buried them in his yard. She came to me and asked me about it.
I have to ask you a question.
Okay.
So Richard, like, he has these stories. They're really scary and like dark, and I think
She wanted to know what I thought, if it was true or not. And I told her no, absolutely not.
This is just who he is.
He just wants attention. He's making it up. Who in the heck is going to go around and kill somebody and then tell people about it? That's just dumb. He's making it up.
I promise you it's okay.
Okay.
She was reassured enough to continue dating him.
What's wrong?
She came running into my house. She grabbed me and threw me in the bathroom and slammed the door behind me and locked us in the bathroom.
What happened? Tell me what happened. What happened?
And then I could hear my brother
What's happening?
screaming, come out here and come out here. And I'm like, what is going on?
RP, stop, please.
Open this door! D, open the door right now. Come on, stop.
We were in that bathroom for several hours. Finally, I opened the door, and he's got a gun pointed right at both of us.
I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here.
Come on, stop.
RP, stop, please.
Open this door. Come on. D, open the door right now. Stop. Let her out of here.
Please.
I could hear my brother screaming, and come out here and come out here.
Let her out.
No! Not until you calm down.
We were in that bathroom for several hours.
Stop! Please, you're scaring us.
Finally, I opened the door, and he's got a gun pointed right at both of us.
I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here.
She wants to end it, so let's end it.
I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified.
You don't mean that.
I didn't want to make him angry. I didn't want to yell at him.
What are you doing? It's me.
I wanted the heck out of that tiny little bathroom with this girl sobbing behind me. And it was just, God, give me the words. Tell me what to do. How do I get out of this?
You don't mean that. Put the gun down.
I don't mean it. You never believe me, D. Why don't you ever believe me, huh?
Finally, he turned the gun toward himself.
No, please, RP, please.
He said that he was just going to kill himself and it just wasn't worth it. And
Do it, please.
I did the only thing I could think to do. And I said, if you kill yourself and my kids come home from school and see you dead, they'll never get it out of their head.
What are they gonna think, huh? What?
Once I brought up my kids, his demeanor changed. He would never, ever, ever harm my kids. I know that. And he just dropped the gun. After that, things were never the same between us. Never.
Hello?
Danielle?
Repeat, what time is it?
Told me that he needed to come see me.
You gotta help me.
What happened?
I did something. But you gotta believe me, it wasn't my fault. It was an accident.
Repeat, what did you do?
He said something really bad had happened. And he said that he had accidentally killed someone. He and the person that he killed were sitting around smoking pot and drinking. And my brother had gotten a new gun and he was cleaning it. And he was showing his friend how to clean it. And it went off and killed him.
Oh my God.
Danielle, you have to help me. I need to leave.
At that point, I believed him.
What do you want me to do?
Come get me. I need to get supplies.
He asked me to bring him some things of his that were there at the house, like outdoor gear, like his hiking boots and his jacket and stuff. And he said, "You gotta take me to go get some food. I need just some rations, just for a couple of days." Fine, let's just go get your stuff. Because he told me he was going to the mountains. And I said, oh, thank goodness. Now he's somebody else's problem. And I know that sounds awful, but I was just so mentally broken from it and just emotionally drained from him. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't do it.
I can't go to jail. Come on, you're my sister. You have to help me.
I'm gonna pack your bags. Stay right there. Do not worry, okay?
I always look out for my brother, and he's always looked out for me.
I love you.
I love you too.
So I went and I took him and I bought him some food. I dropped him off in the mountains, and we'd made an agreement that I would bring him food the next day.
I think that's everything. And you're coming back tomorrow?
Yeah. I'll bring more food tomorrow.
Okay. But you didn't tell anybody, did you?
No, no one knows I'm out here.
Okay, good.
Are you gonna be okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
And when I turned around to leave to my car, I heard him cock that gun.
And you're coming back with food tomorrow?
Yeah. I'll bring more food tomorrow.
But you didn't tell anybody, did you?
No, no one knows I'm out here.
Okay, good.
I've asked him several times about this now, and he swears he must have stepped on a twig. But I know I heard him cock that gun. I know it, I know it, I know it. I believe it with all that I am. And my only thought was, I've got to get out of here. I just need to get away right now. I need to get away. And I was really, really terrified because I thought, he's confided in me about this possible accidental shooting, and now he's regretting telling me. And so he doesn't want anybody to turn on him. So I had to make him truly believe that I was absolutely on his side, 100%, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I just had to get the heck out of there. And I just knew what I had to do.
Open this door!
If my kids come home and they see you dead, what are they gonna think, huh? What? I need to go get back to the kids, probably wondering where I am.
I had to make it very clear to him that I had to get home to my kids, but that I would be back. And I told him, RP, I'll be back with food. I gotta get home before the kids get out of school. Okay, D, love you. And I left. Well, the newspaper reported it, saying that they thought the police believed it was a suicide. But I still believe it's an accidental shooting. Because that's what my brother told me, was that it was an accident. I just could not take the chance of someone's family thinking that they had committed suicide and that they could have done something, they could have helped them. This family is going to be saying, why didn't we talk to him? Why didn't he tell us? What could we have done? This family is going to be suffering. And I couldn't let somebody else go through that. I couldn't let somebody think that their child killed themselves. I just couldn't do it. I was afraid I would second guess myself and not make the call. So I had to do it right then and there while I had the courage. End of story. So that's what I did.
Aurora Police Department.
Yes, hello. Hi, yes, I'm actually calling about the suicide in the paper.
I called the Aurora Police Department. I said I had seen a newspaper article about such and such person. They say this person committed suicide. I don't think it was a suicide. I have information saying that it was an accidental shooting.
My brother told me he did it. He said he didn't mean to. He said it was an accident.
I didn't know if it was or if it wasn't, but I needed to tell myself that it was so that I didn't feel like I was betraying him in any way. Had he killed somebody else, or had they killed him, I would have had way more guilt than I already do.
Oh, thank you.
You have the right to remain silent.
Do you understand that? I do, RP.
Anything you say can and will be used against you in court of law.
I understand that too. Why don't you just tell us what happened? That was an accident. We were just sitting there and we were cleaning our guns. Somebody just found. And my gun went off. 1 minute we're sitting there talking, laughing. Then next minute he's got a hole in his head. I am a killer. I've killed 3 other people. Who's the 3 other people? Prostitutes. Nobody cares about those people. You know what? And they're at the lowest point in their life, and what am I doing? I'm out here killing them. There, I'm telling you. Okay. I dug damn holes, man.
You know, I've killed someone before.
Nobody believed him. It was all just baloney.
He has these stories, and they're really scary.
When I heard that he confessed, honestly, I thought he's sending these people on a wild goose chase. I really did. I thought it was still more BS. I really thought these cops are idiots. Man, they're gonna go looking for something that's just not there.
So they think I'm lying. Wait till they go dig up them bodies. So no.
This man, Richard Paul White, is now a suspected serial killer. Tonight, police around the state are looking for victims White has confessed to killing.
Everyone who knew my brother said that he just made stuff up. And I always thought, well, maybe he's just a compulsive liar. If you're going to go and kill someone, are you going to tell everyone you encounter? Probably not. And that's what he did. And so I didn't believe it for a second. I just didn't believe it until that moment when I saw it on the news. And then I knew.
In Denver, officers are still at a scene where they found 2 bodies. At another location, the small town of La Junta, Colorado, White says he dumped 2 people in a river. And police are investigating a 3rd spot, Mesita, Colorado.
I was standing there and I've never had it happen before. I fell straight to my knees and I couldn't move. And after a few minutes of just being there in shock, I realized that the phone was ringing. And I went to the phone and what? It was the detective. And he said, Danielle, before you find out another way. And I said, I already know. And I started yelling at him. And I was like, I just saw it on the news. You found a body. And the detective said, no, actually, Danielle, we've already found 2. And I just hung up on him. Oh my God. I could not believe what I had seen. I couldn't believe it. And it sounds really dumb, but for months and months, I walked around begging God to just wake me up because I knew it was just a nightmare, that none of it was true. It was just not true. And I didn't get to wake up.
You know, there's 3 other murders we gotta talk about.
No.
The one thing that all of the women that he assaulted had in common was the fact that they were prostitutes.
Let's see. Girl number 1. Dark skin.
The method in which he committed the crimes was fairly consistent. He would pick up these prostitutes, he would take them to his house. Once they were inside the house, he would physically take control of them, either by knocking them unconscious and or pulling a pistol on them.
Then I told him, didn't your mother ever tell you don't get in a car with a stranger?
He would repeatedly force them to perform oral, anal, and vaginal intercourse. He would pause when he needed time to rest and force them to pray for forgiveness for being promiscuous women.
We prayed before I killed her. Who prayed? Me and her. I said, we have to pray together because if 2 people come together in God's name, he'll listen.
And then he would again resume this series of sexual assaults, and this would go on for a period of time, sometimes in excess of 24 hours.
And then when I went to sleep, I handcuffed her to me so that if she got up to leave, she couldn't go more.
It is certainly possible that he committed homicides other than those 3 women. We were able to find a number of women who had been sexually assaulted by him, but had either escaped or had been released.
I think that's what saved my life. I think that my strong will and God helped me pull this through, but that's sad. And I'm sorry for the families. I'm very sorry for you guys. Okay. That's awful. I don't have more to say.
I certainly believe that if Richard White had remained a free man, he would continue to kill people. He is evil.
A lot of people that I know were really upset at me for telling them where he was. I had some family members that were just furious with me, wouldn't speak to me. Some of them still don't. And then the backlash from it was even more difficult. And not in the way that people think. It's not because he was arrested. That was difficult. But the hard part was bringing pain to those people's families' lives. A lot of these women that were killed, their families had not reported them missing. Now they knew that person was absolutely gone. And that was really hard for me. Just thinking about bringing pain into other people's lives, that was rough. It still is. It still makes me really sad for them.
Richard Paul White walks out of the courtroom moments after he pleads guilty to 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of sexual assault.
The result of this plea bargain is that Richard White will spend the rest of his life in prison without parole, and there will not be a trial.
I was a nervous wreck. I started drinking a lot just to forget and just not think. I just had to not be in reality for a little while. A lot of times I felt like I was just surviving. I was just going through the motions. I actually picked up and moved about 3.5 hours away. I had to start over in a place where nobody knew. As the years have gone, sometimes it's a little easier. There's other times it's just not. I just can't. I can't face it sometimes, but sometimes I can. And my brother flat out told me, the only reason I told you is because I knew you'd do the right thing and you'd stop me.
You know, I've killed someone before.
I think my brother was begging people to help him and to stop him. And I think he was telling everybody and anybody so that somebody could make him stop. And nobody did. I wonder why. And I wonder what I could have done. Why didn't I see through it? Why didn't I know? That's it. Why didn't I know? I still wonder if there was something else I could have done, if I would have believed him, if maybe even just one less person would be dead, or maybe two. I don't know. And that's guilt I'll live with forever.
A college student with a bright future.
He was a journalism and history major who planned to go to law school.
He had a huge social group. He was very well liked.
Is found murdered in the middle of town.
The wound was so deep, the blade of the knife nicked the spine.
Sending police hunting for an elusive killer.
This case was a true mystery, a true whodunit.
He was depicted as a promiscuous young man who could have been killed by anybody.
And when they catch him, it leaves everyone blindsided.
They did not want to believe this was true.
And that was pretty surprising.
When we figured out who did it, I refused to believe it.
Columbia, Missouri is best known as the home of the University of Missouri.
I think many people would consider us a college town. This is a city, small city with 30,000 students, coming in.
For the Columbia Police Department, a neighborhood of rowdy kids is usually as bad as it gets.
Mainly a lot of college-related crimes such as the parties and alcohol offenses. Homicides in general were unheard of.
That all changes one afternoon in June 2004.
I received a call that someone had found a body in the East Campus area, and because I'm the East District Commander, I headed towards the scene.
Schwartz arrives to find a team of officers already securing the area.
The body was in between two apartments, lying face up, and he only had boxer shorts on. His throat had been slit, most probably with a knife. It was a very large and gaping wound. It was very deep. There's a few other abrasions on the upper body. So it was a very violent action, just a very violent crime.
I was a student in college, and seeing this in a place I knew really well was tough.
The forensics team processes the scene while police search the area carefully, but they can't locate a murder weapon or ID on the body.
We started talking with people in the area to see if anyone knew this particular person.
This was a part of town where everybody really knows everybody else. Everybody knows everybody else's business.
One onlooker thinks they recognize the dead young man.
The body was identified as Jesse Valencia. He was a young man attending the University of Missouri, and we found out that he lived in the neighborhood, block and a half from where we found his body.
The 23-year-old lived alone in an apartment just off campus. Police need to know if that's where the crime got its start.
We opened it up and started to look for any initial type evidence, trying to figure out who could have done this and for what reason.
The forensic team does a thorough sweep of the apartment, bagging Jesse's cell phone, cigarettes, and other items, while police canvass neighbors to see if they noticed anything suspicious the night before.
His neighbor admitted coming home drunk about 3 in the morning and going to bed. He was awakened by yelling that was going on next door. This neighbor actually pounded on the door and then went back to sleep.
The neighbor recalls that the shouting was late, almost 4 o'clock in the morning. Police are curious who was in the apartment with Jesse and what could they have been arguing about.
That obviously started to help us narrow down the time frame of when this may have occurred, but that's all we had to work with at that point.
There were no real clues as to who had murdered this young man.
A few hours into the investigation, another young man arrives at the scene in a flood of tears.
This guy named Jack Berry told investigators he was Jesse's former boyfriend who just lived a few blocks away. A friend had called Jack Berry saying that Jesse was dead.
If he had a relationship with Jesse Valencia, he was definitely a person the detectives wanted to talk to.
Jack agrees to come down to the station for routine questioning. But first, he helps detectives track down Jesse's family in Kentucky.
They called me on the phone, and a detective told me that Jesse had been killed, and I pretty much just took off running through the house and ran out my front door screaming. Just too much. Even when he was a little boy, Jesse never had trouble making friends. Everybody wanted to be around him because he was constantly smiling, laughing, and Jesse told me he was gay when he was 10 years old. He started crying, he got pretty emotional, and he said that he was afraid that I was gonna hate him. And I told him that there was nothing in the world that could make me hate him. After that, he seemed pretty comfortable with himself.
As a teen, Jesse's confidence bloomed.
Jesse loved to talk. He loved meeting new people, making new friends. When he was in high school, he wanted to try modeling. He did really well at it, and I always thought that he wouldn't go back to school, but a year from the date that he told us that he wanted to be a model, he said he wanted to be a lawyer. That's what he decided to do, and that's why he went to Missouri.
Linda said he was a journalism and history major who planned to go to law school.
Jesse Valencia was one of those larger-than-life characters. He had such a big personality. He had a lot of friends. He had a huge social group.
Now, detectives need to find out who cut Jesse's life short in such a horrific way. They start by asking Jack Berry about his relationship with Jesse.
Jack told them he and Jesse had just split up, and he was trying to make Jesse realize it's over. I need to move on. Jesse still loved Jack, so he was having a hard time letting go. but Jack was already starting to see someone else.
Was it a fight with a spurned lover that the neighbor had heard in the middle of the night?
It was possible Jack had some type of confrontation with Jesse that led to his death.
And when investigators asked Jack for an alibi, it turns out that he doesn't seem to have one.
His alibi was, I was home sleeping alone. At that point, Jack Barry had become the primary suspect.
Coming up, detectives discover a secret romance
They had started a relationship very quickly.
that uncovers a killer's trail
A lie is the next best thing to a confession.
to a surprising culprit.
It was shocking on many levels.
Detectives in Columbia, Missouri are questioning a man who had recently split up with murdered college student Jesse Valencia.
Jack Barry wanted to end the relationship. He wasn't happy with the relationship any longer.
Jack paints a picture of a couple growing apart after 2 years of dating. But a piece of evidence found at Jesse's apartment makes detectives question his story.
The investigating detectives found Jesse's cell phone, and the cell phone showed that Jesse had called Jack Barry at about 3:18 that night.
The neighbors had heard some type of an argument from the victim's apartment, approximately the time frame of when this occurred. So that would be obviously suspicious.
But Jack insists he was nowhere near Jesse's apartment.
Jack said that he had already gone to bed that night and that he heard a knock on his door at 3:18 in the morning, and then he simultaneously got a phone call from Jesse's cell phone. It was routine that Jesse would use his cell phone as sort of a doorbell. Jack said he was tired and he really didn't feel like getting up and talking to his former boyfriend at 3:18 in the morning, so he didn't go to the door.
Jack says he rolled over and went back to sleep. But police aren't so sure and question him for hours.
Finally, Jack broke into tears, and he said he regretted that. He didn't go to the door because what happened might not have happened had he done that. His reaction was so genuine, and it was clear that Jack still had a lot of love and affection for Jesse.
And it's becoming clear to detectives that Jack didn't kill Jesse, but they press him to see if he might know who did.
Jack said that he had no clue as to what would have happened to him and why anyone would have killed him.
23-year-old Jesse Valencia, the MU student.
Police found Valencia's body on East Campus, throat slashed.
As the story of the murder hits the 11 o'clock news, it sends shockwaves through the city.
I would say this was probably one of the most gruesome killings in Columbia. We don't have very many murders here.
The murder of a gay young man just a week before the city's first Pride Fest horrifies the progressive college community.
For anyone who thinks that they can get away with something like this so heinous is just unthinkable. We know from past homicides that a majority of them are with people that they know. Anyone who had had contact with him, whether in a sexual relationship or a social relationship, the detectives wanted to talk to.
Police begin to make the rounds of Jesse's wide circle of friends, wondering if there's anyone in his life that might have harbored any kind of grudge. One name they hear over and over is Zev Feintuck, a student that Jesse had met 2 weeks earlier at a political rally.
Jesse's friends had said, oh, maybe it was this guy because he didn't seem quite normal. There was something that made him a little bit different from other people.
Several of Jesse's friends, they said that Zev wasn't comfortable in his own skin and that he had a lot of issues with being himself. There was some contention whether Zev and Jesse were having a romantic relationship. They were spending a lot of time together.
Rumors about the two young men had been swirling, and after Jesse was murdered, the gossip about Zev began to take a sinister tone.
Somebody saw someone matching his description, looking disheveled and crying, walking down the street the morning of the murder, and a car he was known to drive was seen in that area.
That's when the detectives started looking towards him and started talking with him and seeing what he had to say.
Detectives call Zev down to the station, but he denies that the rumors about him and Jesse are true.
Zev said they'd never had a sexual relationship, but they were friends. Then Zev would come over and he'd hang out with him.
Police questioned Zev about where he was between 3 and 5 a.m.
His alibi was I was home sleeping. He was a young man who still lived with his parents.
They subject Zev to a voice stress analysis test to see if he is telling the truth.
It showed untruthful, so deceitful. That did seem to be some evidence of guilt.
Detectives quickly follow up with a visit to his parents, but they confirm that their son was home all night.
Zev's parents had said that when Zev would leave, he would always go through the garage door to get to the car, and so it made a big racket. They would have awakened his parents, and they said there's no way that he would have left that night. It seemed like he did have an alibi.
With Zev Feintuck discounted as a suspect, detectives continue to piece together the last hours of Jesse Valencia's life.
The detectives were talking with several of the friends of Jesse Valencia to see where he was on the evening and early morning hours that this occurred.
Police learned that Jesse had gone to a party at a friend's house around 11 p.m. on the night he was killed.
Some friends of Jesse said that Friday night, Jesse was at a party with a young man named Ed McDevitt.
Ed McDevitt was somebody Jesse had just met. Ed was a chef in town. They had met just a couple of nights before and had started a relationship very quickly.
Jesse's friends tell police that the two men left the party together, heading in the direction of Jesse's house.
And that was around 3 o'clock in the morning on the last night of Jesse's life.
It appears as though Ed McDevitt might have been the last person to see Jesse alive.
And it was possible Ed McDevitt went home with Jesse and then killed him.
"12 hours after finding Jesse Valencia's body, detectives track down 22-year-old Ed McDevitt and bring him down to the station.
Jesse had met Ed McDevitt 2 days before his death and invited Ed to come home with him on that Friday night, the last night of Jesse's life, so he became a suspect at that point.
But Ed claims that he and Jesse went their separate ways soon after they left the party.
And he was talking with Jesse on the phone at the time he was walking home on the last night of Jesse's life.
Ed says that his roommate was up when he arrived home and invites detectives over to talk to him themselves.
There's nothing found when they search his home, and everything Ed McDevitt told the officers they could verify by looking at his cell phone records, by talking to his roommate, and at that point, investigators let him go.
Police hope the DNA results pending at the lab will help them link one of their suspects to Jesse's murder. Desperate for answers, Jesse's mom grows more despondent, recalling an eerie premonition Jesse had years ago.
From the time Jesse was 7 years old, he had told me that he was going to die at a young age. He said, "I'm going to die at a young age, and I love all of you, and I always will love you, but I'll be okay." He would always end it with, "I'll be okay." And of course I got emotional and upset over it. But he said, we've got to make the most of what time I'm here.
A day after Jesse's murder, detectives receive the autopsy report and study it closely for clues.
The medical examiner concluded that Jesse had been murdered in the area of 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. The cut to his neck was the only knife wound, and it was the cause of death. And it was so deep, the blade of the knife had also nicked the spine.
The lack of defense wounds suggests that Jesse had been taken by surprise.
The most mysterious thing was that across his breastbone there were bruises, and in the middle of his back between his shoulder blade there were bruises.
The evidence suggests that Jesse was easily overpowered in the vicious attack. Investigators hope that additional lab work will reveal even more and point to a killer.
There were fingernail scrapings collected during the autopsy, and also some hairs were found on his chest, and that was sent to the crime lab for analysis.
Until the crime lab turns up DNA, police have no choice but to move on to their next lead.
A lot of Jesse's friends were being brought in, they were giving evidence, they were helping out with information.
One of those friends is a fellow student named Andy.
Andy Schermerhorn was a young man who had what they called a friends with benefits arrangement with Jesse.
Andy was out of town the night Jesse was killed, but the day after the murder, he comes forward to share a shocking story.
Andy Schermerhorn told the investigating detectives that Jesse was having sex with a Columbia police officer.
He was having a relationship with an officer. I was surprised.
Andy nervously reveals an encounter 3 weeks prior at Jesse's apartment.
Andy Schermerhorn said that on May 14th, he had been at Jesse's home at night, and there was a knock at the door. Jesse went to the door, and a uniformed police officer was there. And Jesse said, "It's okay, oh, it's okay, he's cool, he's cool."
According to Andy, the officer took off his gun belt, and the next thing Andy knew, the three of them were fooling around.
After it was over, the police officer said, "This has got to be a secret."
A secret affair between an officer and a murder victim is a major red flag.
If any one of our officers had been seeing Jesse Valencia, why is he not being forthcoming? If you have nothing to hide, why not just tell us?
Detectives need to know who this officer is.
They said, "Do you think you'd be able to recognize him if you saw him again?" And he said yes, because it had only been about 2 weeks since that incident.
Detectives ask Andy if he'll look through a book containing the photo of every officer in the Columbia Police Department.
They were having him walk down the hall where he was going to look at the yearbook. Andy Schermerhorn flipped through it without even looking at the pages, closed it, and Schermerhorn began trembling, and he said, "I passed him in the hallway just now." It was him.
The day after the murder of Jesse Valencia, detectives in Columbia, Missouri learned that he was allegedly having a relationship with a local police officer.
Jesse's friend Andy Schermerhorn told the investigating detectives that he was an eyewitness to this sexual activity. Schermerhorn began trembling, and he said, It was him that I passed in the hallway just now. And that was Stephen Arthur Rios.
Stephen Rios' commander believes Andy must be mistaken about the officer's identity.
When the detectives told me that maybe Steve had been having a relationship with the victim, I told the detectives, you're absolutely wrong. He was married to a wonderful young lady, and they had just had their first child.
Schwartz knows the 27-year-old Rios well. The 5-year veteran is one of the department's rising young stars.
Steve was very outgoing. He communicated well, very ambitious.
He was a young officer who was on his way up in the department because he was a go-getter and a very popular officer.
Detectives don't know if Andy is telling the truth, but they're certainly anxious to get Rios' side of the story.
If he was having a relationship, that does not mean that he had killed Jesse Valencia.
Rios is out of town for a couple of days on a camping trip with coworkers. So they begin tracing Rios' steps the day Jesse's body was found.
He went in for his work shift later in the afternoon, like he normally did, and at that point, the body had been found.
The sergeant on duty that day had told me that Rios was coming to the scene to help identify the body. He had contacted the on-duty sergeant, but said he could help.
Rios said that I met Jesse Valencia when I gave him a ticket back on April 18th.
Investigators pull a copy of the incident report to see if it backs up Rios' story.
April 18th of 2004, some friends of Jesse's were having a party, and the party kept getting loud, and the police showed up to get them to quiet down. And Jesse, this intelligent pre-law major, said, "What's your probable cause?" Well, that got him arrested, and Stephen Rios gave him a municipal court summons for obstructing a governmental operation.
A call to Jesse's mother corroborates the report.
Jesse told me that when he was arrested, that the cop that drove him down to the jail was really nice, and that he talked to him all the way down to the station. And he said, I kind of felt a little bit uncomfortable because he kept asking me personal questions about my life that I didn't really feel like he should be asking me when he was trying to arrest me for something.
But the arrest wasn't the end of the officer's interest. The very next day, he turned up at Jesse's apartment.
After he got arrested, Jesse called me on the phone and he said, the cop that arrested me last night showed up on my doorstep. He said he had to ask me some more questions, but the questions he was asking Jesse were more of a personal nature. They went out a few times after that, and he would come to Jesse's apartment and just show up unannounced, even when he was in uniform.
Linda doesn't know much more than that, but thinks that Jesse's friend Joan Sheridan might. When they track her down 2 days after the murder, Joan confirms that Jesse saw the officer more than once after the arrest.
He had told her that the officer would typically come by sometime after 3 o'clock and before 6 o'clock in the morning, just for sex, and then leave.
Joan reveals that she got a close-up look at the officer one night when he showed up at Jesse's place.
They showed her a photo lineup, and she was able to pick the person that came by to Jesse's apartment that night. And it was Stephen Rios.
Detectives now have more evidence that Rios was having a scandalous relationship with Jesse. And when they hear what Joan says next, they suspect he may also have a motive for murder.
Jones said that when he went to court for his municipal court summons, Jesse assumed it would be dismissed since he was having sex with the arresting officer, and it had not been dismissed, and that had angered Jesse. So Jesse had told Joan that the next time the police officer comes over, I'm going to tell him that I have a little secret the chief of police might want to know if he doesn't get that ticket dismissed.
The detectives called me and told me that Jesse was threatening to contact the chief and expose Rios. Finally, the light bulb went off. You start looking at who had a motive to kill Jesse Valencia. Rios was very worried about his job. He was very worried about his reputation. He would be very devastated. He would be embarrassed by this information coming out.
That's when Rios became the suspect.
It's a serious matter to accuse one of their own. Investigators quickly regroup to plan the best approach.
They didn't feel they were ready to interview him yet. They were wanting to have the DNA evidence come back before they actually confronted him. But all of a sudden, Rios showed up at the police department and said, could I talk to you for a second?
He had this look on his face, like he was very upset. Very upset.
Coming up, detectives get a devastating phone call.
Steve called me, crying, very upset, and he said, I've done a bad thing.
And the investigation takes an unexpected new turn.
The officers found him on the 4th floor of a parking garage.
What was he thinking?
Detectives investigating the murder of college student Jesse Valencia are preparing to confront their suspect, police officer Steven Rios. But Rios goes on the offensive first.
Rios said he was hearing from other people that Jesse was having an affair with a Columbia police officer. And I just wanted you to know that I did give him a ticket, but that's the only contact I had with him, and it's certainly not me.
But detectives tell him flat out that they've heard a different story.
They said, we've talked to a woman who said that she was at Jesse's apartment one night when you showed up. Rios sat there for a minute. And then Rios said, well, you know what? We did become social friends, but it never became anything like a sexual relationship. They said, we've talked to another young man who says he was actually having sex with Jesse, and you came by that night and actually came in and joined them on the bed. And Rios said, what, sex? Like it was the most astounding and false accusation you could ever heard.
He was getting very agitated with the detectives. He's a very prideful person, and he was very upset because they didn't believe him.
It's easy to see that Rios is lying. Detectives bear down hard. And finally, their suspect breaks.
Finally, Rios admitted that he had sex with Jesse. He tried to claim it was just that one time, and then it evolved into that he had had sex with Jesse as many as 6 times.
It's a stunning admission and a strong motive for murder.
He was embarrassed. He obviously did not want this information out if he was keeping it a secret to begin with, especially from his wife, in his family.
Police may not have the physical evidence to prove that Rios is a killer, but they do have something that's almost as good.
We were able to prove that he was lying.
There's an old saying in law enforcement that a lie, a provable lie, is the next best thing to a confession. And Steven Rios was caught in lots of provable lies.
But detectives aren't finished interrogating their suspect. They ask for his whereabouts the night that Jesse was killed.
He said he had been at work and he got off at 3 o'clock in the morning like he normally did. And he said that night he'd gone onto the rooftop of the parking garage with a few other officers and they had drank a few beers before they went home. And he said he got home about 5:15 to 5:30, took a shower and got in bed.
Detectives grill Rios for over 3 hours, looking for any cracks in his story.
He still maintained he'd had nothing to do with Jesse's death. At that point, investigators let him go. He was definitely a suspect, but the question remained, can we prove it beyond a reasonable doubt?
Investigators' next step is to create a timeline for the night of Jesse's murder and see how Rios' alibi fits in.
His wife corroborated that he had gotten home in that 5:15 to 5:30 time frame.
Other officers confirm Rios worked until 3 a.m. and then had some drinks with them on the rooftop that night. The security door records reveal that Rios left the roof at 4:37 a.m., 45 minutes before he got home.
One of the detectives actually drove from the parking garage to Jesse's home the same time of night, and it was 3.5 minutes. He then drove from the scene of the murder to Rios' home, and it was 10 minutes.
This gave a window of time of 20 to 30 minutes that were potentially unaccounted for at the time that Jesse Valencia was apparently killed.
And this gave us a timeline that could show that Rios could have done this murder within that time.
Investigators search Rios' home, car, and work locker, but they uncover nothing to tie him to the crime. Then, out of the blue, Captain Schwartz receives an alarming phone call.
Steve called me crying, very upset, and he said, I've done a bad thing. The first question I asked him was, where are you? And he said that he was in Kansas City and that he had bought a shotgun. I really thought he was going to kill himself. And my first reaction was no. I said, you need to just stop what you're doing. Just come back. Just come back to Columbia and we'll get through it.
Captain Schwartz is able to talk Rios into driving the 150 miles back home, where police take him into custody.
He still wasn't under arrest, but he was put on a 96-hour hold for an involuntary commitment to a mental facility, just for observation to make sure that he wouldn't kill himself.
But Stephen Rios is still despondent. He manages to evade hospital security, and soon the entire Columbia police force is on alert.
I got a phone call that Steve had escaped and was on top of the parking garage, threatening suicide.
One of the officers found him on the 4th floor of a parking garage, and Rios climbed up on the wall, claiming he was going to jump.
When they called me and said he's on top of the garage, he's threatening suicide, what was he doing? What was he thinking?
Police officer Stephen Rios, a suspect in the murder of Jesse Valencia, has escaped protective custody and is threatening to leap to his death.
This is one of the busiest parts of campus. It's about 7 o'clock at night. He goes to the roof of the parking garage, starts threatening to jump.
There's a crowd below. There are people watching this. People are videotaping this, taking pictures. It's bizarre.
Police arrive on the scene to try to talk Rios off the ledge.
All I could think of was, here we go again. Why are you putting everyone through this? It was just putting everyone through a nightmare.
After a tense 45-minute standoff, they finally managed to talk Rios back from the brink.
He was taken back into custody and again put into a mental facility and put on a suicide watch while we were finishing our investigation to determine whether or not he would be charged with Jesse's murder.
3 weeks after Jesse's murder, the analysis of the hairs found on Jesse's chest give police the evidence they need to charge Rios with the crime.
They were able to say the persons who left those hairs on Jesse's chest, limb hairs that would have come from somebody's arm, those hairs matched to Stephen Rios. And that's when we realized that they teach Columbia police officers at the training academy how to administer a chokehold, and that cuts off the blood flow to the brain and renders a person unconscious in 3 to 8 seconds. That could account for these limb hairs in addition to the bruises that went across the front of his chest and in the middle of his back.
On July 1st, 26 days after Jesse Valencia's body was found, Stephen Arthur Rios is arrested and charged with first-degree murder.
Did you kill Jesse Valencia?
No, I did not.
During the week-long trial, prosecutors lay out their theory of how the murder went down.
Rios came by after his shift was over, thinking they were going to have sex. Jesse confronted him.
Jesse was threatening to contact the chief and expose Rios.
And he knew his career and his happy marriage would probably be over. And that had angered Rios. The neighbor heard this argument going on, and Jesse's yelling, "Stop it, stop it." Jesse, then clad only in his shorts and barefoot, ran out, being chased by Stephen Rios. The Stephen Rios caught him from behind and choked him into unconsciousness, put him on the ground, cut his throat, and that's what I believe happened in the last minutes of Jesse Valencia's life.
Prosecutors know they have a strong case, but convincing a jury that a police officer is a murderer is sure to be a hard sell.
If even one of the 12 jurors feels like it's not the person, then you have a hung jury or a not guilty verdict.
After 8 long hours, the jury returns with a verdict.
The jury find the defendant, Stephen Arthur Rios, guilty of murder in the second degree.
I did feel a great sense of relief and even pride when the case was over and Stephen Rios had not gotten away with murder.
Stephen Arthur Rios receives a sentence of life in prison for the slaying of Jesse Valencia.
I don't feel like that Jesse really got justice because I wanted the death penalty for him. He took my whole life away from me.
Anytime you have an officer who has done a heinous type act like this and taken someone's life, it is a huge stain. And for law enforcement everywhere.
For Jesse's mother, her son's legacy is in the way he lived his life, not the way it ended.
I want people to remember the Jesse that was constantly laughing and trying to make other people happy, because that's what Jesse lived for. He didn't want anybody to be sad. There's always the empty space. Everybody still misses him, and we talk about him daily.
For more information on an unexpected killer, go to oxygen.com.